So on the day that I am recording this video, it is the 10-year anniversary of To Pimp a Butterfly. My personal favorite Kendrick Lamar album, the one that I feel like is his best. It is one of the very few albums, not only in hip hop, but in music in general, that I consider a 10 out of 10 perfect album. You know, no flaws in it from start to finish. Like, it definitely has had like a big impact on me, not only as an artist, but as a fan of music and hip hop. And I love that album so much. One of my favorite songs on that album is a song called Black of the Berry. And on that song, he repeats over and over again, I'm the biggest hypocrite in 2015. Because that was the year that that song came out. And I can't help but to think about that in the video that I am about to present to you guys today. Because in a lot of the praise that Kendrick gets, especially over the past year, you know, off of the back of the battle with him and Drake and the preceding victory lap that he's been on since he won decisively against Drake back in like May of 2014. There's been this kind of like bubbling controversy that kind of gets drowned out that has reared its head a couple of times because of certain moves that Kendrick has made that, you know, doesn't get talked about a lot. But it recently got brought back up, at least to my attention, because of the video I watched with Anthony Fantano. I watched him talk about, Kendrick being on the new Playboi Carti album. And I listened to the verse. I thought it was dope. He was on a couple of other features. One, he's just doing the hook. The other is just some ad libs he's adding to, I think, the song Mojo Jojo. I'm gonna let you know right now, not the biggest Playboi Carti fan. I thought it was cool, just something that on a normal day I wouldn't be into. So anything surrounding this guy, I don't really be knowing about. I just know that he does the weird voices. You know, I've heard a couple of songs, but I know he has like a massive cult fan base that, you know, he is definitely the voice of a certain generation of kids that just gravitates to him. So anything else outside of that, I don't really know much about him. But Anthony Fantano brought up the point that Playboi Carti has domestic violence in his history. Not only with his ex, celebrity ex, Iggy Azalea, who has accused him of being a serial abuser, but he's also had, history of that with Ruby Rose. He's had history of that with his pregnant girlfriend from only a couple years ago, where he was arrested for choking her out while she was pregnant. So this guy has this stuff in his history, and it just seems kind of odd that Kendrick Lamar would stand with him. Not just because, he has this, I guess you could say, righteous kind of vibe. Like, I know Kendrick isn't, like this conscious rapper and stuff like that, like people try to portray him to be, just because he, he does speak on social issues in his music, and he does, present his music with a message, doesn't necessarily make him, this kind of holier than thou figure. But it was really more about the fact that, he took this stance that he did during the battle with Drake. Like, I know that was more than just, like this morality thing. Like, I know that there was a real beef and a real hatred between those guys that have been bubbling up for years. So I know that that comes into play. But a common theme in a lot of the songs, like Meet the Grams and Euphoria, and especially Not Like Us, there was a morality stance that was taken. And even on the post-beef song, Watch the Party Die, there was a lot of that sentiment for not just Drake, but guys like Drake within the industry. Like in Meet the Grams, he says, I've been in the industry 12 years and there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Like, I don't remember the exact lyric right now, but that stuck out to me because it was like Drake is a part of a bigger issue. And Watch the Party Die was a song that basically, expanded on that idea. Like, this isn't over. There's a lot of like dirty stuff with this industry that we gotta cut out. And actually that same sentiment is shared on Wiped Out Murals. So it seems kind of odd for you to have that stance and basically draw this line of saying, yeah, those guys over there. His Harper's Bazaar interview, he even said, like, when when SZA asked him about Not Like Us and what it meant to him, he said, it means that, those other guys are not like us because they don't have morals. They don't stand on something. They don't believe in anything. And for him to stand with somebody like Playboi Carti with that kind of history seems a little odd. And it just reminded me of, my least favorite album of Kendrick Lamar, which is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I know that album is very important. And there's a lot of like great music on there. Some of my favorite all-time Kendrick songs is on there, like Count Me Out, a song that, I tell this little story. Like when the album came out, it was 2022, and me and my wife was doing a lot. Like we were about to have a baby, we were about to get married, we were trying to buy a house and move from the place that we were renting at the time, and it was hard. It was hard. She was pregnant. We're like, trying to deal with the landlord of our current place, and we're still waiting on the delays and stuff because this was when everything was skyrocketing, the price of materials, and there was a lot of delays with getting the house done. It should have been done like a month ago, but because of all the delays, like we were stuck trying to figure out like where we were gonna live because our landlord wanted us out. And just the pressures in general of being a first-time dad. Like it was a lot of things in my life going on that was crazy. And Count Me Out, for some reason, I had already heard the song before, but I'm driving, and that song just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And I cried a little bit. I ain't even gonna front. Like that thing just really hit me in like a special way. So that song will always hold a special place in my heart because of that moment. But also songs like Father Time, Rich Spirit, Savior, even, the one with Baby Keem and the main one. Like those are some of my favorite Kendrick Lamar tracks of all time. There's some other stuff that I'm not as into. I'd probably say Worldwide Steppers, Purple Heart, surprisingly. Songs like that, they're just kind of cool. We Cry Together, Auntie Diaries, Mother I Sober, very important songs that I probably don't return to as much as others. And because of that, it's not a cohesive listen like I would probably say all of the other Kendrick Lamar albums are, even GNX from last year. So that's kind of like the superficial reasons why it's not my favorite album. But like the main sticking point, because all that other stuff I could look over, the main sticking point for me is the inclusion of Kodak Black. Because again, I understand why he's there, because he's not just featured on that, like on the album, like on a song, like Ghostface Killer or Blast or somebody like that. It's just like on one song. He is a recurring motif on the album. Like he is providing ad libs on a bunch of songs, on there, including the very last track when he says "I Choose Me." He's featured on Silent Hill. He even gets his own interlude right before Rich Spirit. So he's a very like integral part of the album, and his inclusion, because of the things that he has done, including, sexual assault of a high school girl back in like 2018, seems a little crazy, especially when you go back and you listen to Not Like Us. Not Like Us really applies more to Kodak Black than it does Drake. But when you say Not Like Us is, what that means to you is that, those other guys are not like us because they don't have morals. Like what morals essentially does Kodak Black have that a Drake wouldn't? Because everything with Drake is alleged. Like in the battle, he was accusing you of domestic violence. You was accusing him of, amongst other things, like, possible pedophilia. There's some debate on whether he actually called Drake a pedophile or not. Okay, cool. We'll play along for the court case. And also, I'm not defending Drake. I don't want anything that I say in this video to come off like I'm defending Drake. I made a video a couple months ago rather, saying like I am done with Drake. The lawsuit was the last straw for me. I am not a fan anymore. I've actually not been a fan for a long time. I outgrew his music, but that was the thing where it's like, even if he dropped something new, like I didn't even listen to Some Sexy Songs for You because I am completely done. I don't care about anything else he got going on, not even for a curious listen. So yeah, I'm not defending Drake. This is no Drake defense piece. But when you hear Not Like Us And knowing that outside of a couple of questionable, videos and the thing with Millie Bobby Brown, nothing has been concrete. Nothing's been confirmed that those pedophilia allegations are legit. Kodak Black pled guilty to that crime. He pled guilty to a lesser charge because he knew if he tried to go ahead with it, at least in my mind, or because I don't want to say this like I'm a lawyer or I was there, but like it's basically like it was looking like dude was going to jail. It was looking like dude was going to jail. He was going to be found guilty of everything, so he had to plead guilty to a lesser charge to try to circumvent the major charge. So in that respect, that fits Kodak Black more than it fits Drake. And to be honest, the longer, because I was in the comments of that Anthony Fantano video. I'm gonna link it in the description too, just so cause I keep referencing it. I might as well go ahead and give them some love for anybody that's curious about what I'm talking about and want to check it out. But in that video, like in the comments, there were a lot of people, basically blasting me when I basically brought up like, hey, I'm glad you're speaking on this. And one of the reoccurring things from that album was saying, hey, Kendrick Lamar is not a savior. Well, one, there's not a large, like it's a very big ask. It's not a very big ask to not associate yourself with abusers. It doesn't mean that you have to be Jesus Christ or Muhammad or Buddha or whoever you pray to. You don't have to be those figures to not associate yourself with abusers, especially people that abuse minors. I don't think that that's a big ask. So that's one thing. But also, I don't think that absolves you from criticism. Like, I understand the messaging behind Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and I understand that, hey, you were combating that idea of, hey, I'm not like this savior figure. Like, I'm just a guy that makes music. And I feel like that's important. I always say I don't really understand why people go to, musicians or any type of celebrity for that matter for like their political views. Like, I can enjoy the music, but not necessarily like expect you to save the world. I don't want you to save the world. I just want you to speak about the world and be consistent in your messaging. That's why this feels inconsistent for me, because in your 2014 interview, the one thing where like the domestic violence stuff was, kind of traced back to from, Drake's allegations, because there wasn't really anything out there. There was all these weird videos and incidences with Drake. That's why Not Like Us hit a little harder than anything on Family Matters, because the only thing that could be pointed back to was that 2014 incident, I think at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas or something like that. And you spoke about it on the Breakfast Club, basically saying, yo, it's a crazy story. It looked cool. But it was also the part where you basically like shouted out, like, or basically say like, your heart goes out to real victims and things like that.
The person who ever made that up owes an apology. Not to me, but to women that actually go out there and get abused. You dig what I'm saying? That's a real issue. And to be putting a person name that stands for someone way more better, that's been raised way more better than that, that's not cool.
And then I wonder, like, hey, if you're trying to, take somebody like Kodak Black or Playboy Cardi under your wing and try to show them something different, because that was also another sentiment that was showing up a lot in the comment section of the video. I mean, but for one, it doesn't really seem like it's really getting through to him. And because of how closely associated Kodak Black is to that album, the more he decides to just do these crazy antics, whether you blame it on drugs, whether you blame it on mental health, like, him doing all this wild and crazy stuff just kind of taints the association to him, the association to that album with him the longer it goes on. So that portion of it was something that I didn't like in the beginning, and it seems to age even worse as time goes on. So that's one thing, but also I just wonder how the victims feel when someone, like a Kendrick Lamar, who, says, yo, I stand with real victims. Like, we have to protect our women. We have to protect our children from other guys like Drake and them, that part of the industry. But I wonder how the victims of a Playboy Cardi or a Kodak Black feel about, a guy with that kind of stance, when he speaks on these things, associating himself and trying to, in some way like show, try to like take them under their wing. Excuse me. Like, I think we do that a lot, like as men. Like, I think we do that a lot, or not even just as men, but as a society. I think we do that a lot. Like, when these guys are troubled, we try to, like take them under our wing. And I'm not saying throw away everybody. I can understand, like, in certain cases, because of the things that you went through as a child, like, these cycles can repeat themselves. But then I don't really feel like that same grace is extended to the victims, or at the very least, I don't think their feelings on, this guy being like almost coddled in a way, and on like a wide platform, like on a large platform. I don't know how they feel. Like, I've never been in that position. I can't understand, but like, that's just something that always crosses my mind when I see everybody like, yo, this guy needs some help. Like, before she was lying, like we see with a situation like with Cassie, like before she was lying, then it's like, yo, they need some help. Like, nobody's fucking with Diddy because he was on video. And I feel like if it was just his word against hers, and I feel like it would be bad, especially since I don't really think Kodak Black has ever taken accountability for the things that he has allegedly done. Like, I want to say allegedly to cover my ass, but like, yeah, he did plead guilty to a lesser charge. So it does feel like I don't know. That's just a thing that always crosses my mind. And that's one of the things that soured me on that album. And then I think about just, even from the beginning, like his association with Dr. Dre. Now, the Dr. Dre thing, I silently excuse on Kendrick's part, just because he's a large reason why Kendrick is in the position he's in. He's not the only reason, like Top Dog, and there were other people involved, of course. But like, Dr. Dre definitely played a big part, giving him the cosign and working with him early on. So so I can understand like a certain level of obligation to him. Like, doesn't make it right, but I could also understand, like, he's the legend. Like, a Kodak Black and Cardi would be, guys underneath Kendrick at this point, whereas like a Dr. Dre was that guy for Kendrick. So I can understand that one a little bit. But yo, it's another person closely associated with Kendrick that's got these kind of things. And again, it really wouldn't even be that big of a deal if it wasn't for the line that was drawn in the sand on Watch the Party Die and during the battle with Drake. And speaking of Drake, it's a little sidebar. That's how I know he's bad at battle rap. Like, there's this meme of him like going like, yo, I study rap battles for a living, from that LeBron James interview that he did after the Pusha T stuff.
I study rap battles for a living.
And this is how I know he really don't. Because the fact that he went the DV angle, trying to go at Kendrick, and didn't expound on that, trying to connect the dots with the association with Dr. Dre, such a missed open goal, in my opinion. Like, when it comes to battles, I really think all this shit lies. Unless somebody comes with receipts and there's court cases filed and stuff like that, it's just like most battle rap. Like, you go to the underground rap league, dudes talk about killing each other, disrespecting each other, talk about dead relatives in every which way possible, and they probably dap up after the battle is over. Some of them do on stage. So I take it all as just, it's just all raps to me. But it's just the fact that you went that angle and you didn't like make that connection with his association with Dr. Dre and Dr. Dre's history with both D Barnes and Michelle. That was a very missed open goal for Drake. And yeah, that's another reason why the battle went the way it did. But yeah, man, that's all I really got to say. Like, for the most part, I'm not gonna completely like kill the guy because of his associations. But I got to be fair. Like, it's coming off real inconsistent as far as like these messages. Like, it makes me think about the Harper Bazaar interview and talking about, guys like himself, morals and things like that. And I understand, like, with music, y'all are coworkers. Y'all don't necessarily have to be friends. Y'all don't have to be hanging out. You don't know what goes on in these guys' private life. But this, thing with Kodak, thing with Playboy Cardi, those things happened before you collaborated with them. And were very public. It's very public knowledge to a lot of folks. And again, the fact that you went down this morality, path, especially like, you could say, well, hey, the Playboy Cardi thing is different than the thing that he was accusing Drake of, but like, it's not so different than what you're accusing, like what, Kodak Black was alleged to have done. So it just kind of brings those things into question. But let me know, maybe there's another, side of this that I'm not seeing. Like, again, I'm not expecting people to be perfect. I'm not expecting Kendrick to be my savior or be this holier than thou figure. But I don't think you have to be Jesus Christ. You don't have to be these religious, 100% pure people that we read about in religious texts. You don't have to be a saint to not associate yourself with folks like that. And there's plenty of other people to associate yourself with. But yeah, let me know if there's something I might be missing when it comes to this. But that's just my thoughts right now. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you like what what I'm doing here on this channel. You want to see more. And leave a comment. Like I said, if I'm missing something, leave a comment. Let me know what I'm missing. Whether you agree with me, you disagree with me, you got nice things to say, you got nasty things to say. I will be in the comments having healthy debates with everybody because no matter what, I love the conversation. But it's been your boy, Vinny Dangerous. This has been 1430. Till next time, much love.